Welcome to Whisper, the Contingent Workforce podcast that will feature leaders who may not have the loudest voices in the industry, but whose perspectives are sharp, grounded in real-world experience, and committed to humanizing the industry. I'm your host, Mickey Pelletier. To learn a little bit more about the show, Manish Senta is going to share some details on the background of this podcast. Manish?
Hello to the audience. We are starting summer of 2026, and all the support, all the engagement the audience has provided last year has been empowering. I am Manish Senta. I am founder and global CEO for TechWisen, and we are beyond excited to bring another speaker who not only brings an amazing perspective of how she started her journey on the supply side, then she went on the MSP side, then she went on the buy side, and now she is taking the contingent labor program in a much more broader perspective as a senior director for indirect procurement. Sunita Pala is a well recognized face in the industry, but what would really the audience will walk away from this episode is she is a strong champion where she tries to empower the business to partner with the supplier to solve the problem of the business, and parallelly she highly encourages the supplier to say you have an opportunity to be a business solver. I am also optimistic that the audience will get a whole new perspective how procurement is also has a different lens, even though a traditional procurement might be treated as a cost saving. But there are many procurement leaders who really wants to make sure the business does the right thing, even if that means that they have to pay a bit more and manage a cost saving, and the cost saving could come in a form of making the business successful. So the audience is an absolute treat to listen to this episode. As always, I am appreciative of Mickey and Matt to make this episode come to life and to the audience. Before I close, thank you for spending time. Please continue to send your questions, feedback, suggestions. I can assure you there are listeners who has reached out to me on LinkedIn and they have acknowledged it, but parallelly they have given me incredible suggestions how I should reach out to different people. So I welcome those feedback. I welcome the participation, and most importantly, we all have a moral obligation to contribute to our industry and make our industry better, not just for us, but also for the future generation. So enjoy the episode.
Thanks, Manish. And joining in and hosting the show is Matt Fringley. Matt, why don't you say hello to everyone?
Hey, Mickey. Great to be back with you again for another episode of Whisper. It's been a while, so I'm looking forward to this next conversation.
Has been a while, but the wait will be worth it. So, with that wait and it being worth it, I want to introduce today's industry leader, Sunita Pala. Sunita, why don't you share a little bit about yourself, your role, your history, and background in the space?
Thanks, Mickey. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you, Matt. Thanks, Manish and team TechWisen. I'm Sunita. I'm based out of San Francisco. I've been here for the past 19 years. I started myself as a recruiter working for a staffing firm, and I worked in across the organizations, be it Cisco, Google, Uber. I would call myself as a people connector and a go-getter attitude. I do have a lot of experience, not just on the contingent side, it's beyond procurement, be it workforce strategy or vendor strategy, and leading high performance teams. And my current role What I'm doing is working on sourcing transformations across the organizations, across the teams, and designing operating models with control.
That's awesome. You've given us a really good history of your experience, and it certainly spans across the entire spectrum of the workforce management. So that's really cool. We know you're going to have a great perspective, and can't wait to get into it. But before we do, let's start with something a little light, little easy. Can you share something, the most effective thing you did recently that uplifted you?
At work, see, there are a lot of learning. Sometimes we learn. I learn a lot at all levels when I interact with. Some of them are super uplifting. Some of them are continuous improvements for myself. But when I look at something which happened recently and which uplifted me personally and also from a professional front is an event called Urja that TechWisen is building on. I got the opportunity to be with the industry experts. I wouldn't call it as a structured event. It's very informal. You get to meet with the leaders. It's mostly driven by people first mindset. I wouldn't call it as an event, but more an experience where you bring people together across the world. We gather, we share ideas, we hang out, and there is a lot of learnings as an outcome of that experience. I made really good professional friends who turned out to be my mentors and who continue to shape in my decisions and goals that I make. Anytime when I'm stuck, I call them. So I would definitely would call it as a personal experience, which is very energizing to me. And I'm sure Matt can relate to that. We both go a long way on that when it comes to Urja. So I would definitely want to call out that particular experience.
Yeah, I've seen videos from it, and it looked like such a cool event. Matt, certainly, I'm sure you're glad to see that and hear her talk about that.
Yeah, it's a very fun event, as Sunita mentioned. It's an internal celebration that we do for our team members that do a lot of the hard work and delivery work for our company across India. And as Sunita mentioned, we bring in a lot of leaders from our company as well as our buyers, our clients, our partners to join and attend as guests. And it is, as she said, a lot of fun and a lot of collaboration and connecting. And we make it a whole, not just about the singular event, but it's usually a couple of days around the event where we host dinners. We like to take them out and see, various sites in the town where the company's headquartered in India. So it really is a great experience for anyone who's able to join us. So with that being said, we want to segue into our next question, which is around you specifically and your experience in our industry. You have an extensive background. You've worked across multiple roles. You've been a recruiter. You worked at an MSP as a supplier, and more recently as an enterprise buyer. And I'm curious, what do you think most organizations still get wrong about this ecosystem?
So, I do understand where things actually tend to break and where things actually create value and impact due to the experience that I had in all spectrums. And I wouldn't call it as the ecosystem where they tend to misunderstand, but but what I know is from a procurement standpoint, from an enterprise standpoint, bringing procurement at an early stage, not just with a cost savings mindset, but having a total cost of ownership mindset where we are driving the impact, we are making our suppliers accountable, we are giving the business the, I would say, asking the right questions, having the right intake, which is more orchestrated at all levels across all categories, is something I would say is missing right now.
No, yeah, absolutely. It makes a lot of sense, and I think that's a really good perspective that you shared. There are multiple facets that we have to consider when someone's looking to set up a program or is running a program. and your experience really does encompass all of the different players that can be a part of that ecosystem. So the knowledge that you have and the knowledge that you can bring around the right way to build a program and the right way to think about how to run a program really does ensure that when when an organization is working with contingent labor and they're bringing all the parties to the table, they're thinking about from multiple lenses, not just cost savings as you called out, right? So they're thinking about compliance, they're thinking about suppliers, and how the suppliers need to be a part of that, delivering the talent. They're thinking about how to ensure they're getting the highest quality talent, all the things that your background, like I said, does lend itself to. So appreciate the insight.
Yes, Anita, I really love the what you said about procurement not being brought in early enough and then asking the right questions. I've heard that from a lot of folks, particularly in procurement. That's one of the things that's disappointing to them, whether that's in implementation, whether that's in the life cycle of talent engagement or purchasing, is they're not brought in till late in the game, and there's not a whole lot they can do because so many things have been done. So you're certainly not alone in that thought. And I really appreciate you bringing that up because it's something that I agree with. It's something I've observed anytime we're meeting with clients. Procurement says, "Hey, we want to be involved early on." So no, that's great. You brought that up. I want to build on that last answer in the theme there because it would really like your perspective on what would transform a staffing supplier into a true strategic partner, and what do both sides need to do differently to get there?
So I would give you two different perspectives. The first thing, there has to be an evolution on both the sides, be it a provider, be it a staffing partner, or be it a consulting partner. Because right now, my core is beyond contingent, what I do right now. So I can definitely give you a perspective of a staffing partner, but I would want to focus more as a consulting partners or the experience that I had working with the staffing vendors. So I believe as a business, as an enterprise procurement, having suppliers accountable to the outcomes and they should know how they're being measured. I think that's one of the area where the business definitely would want to know whether they're doing the right job or not. The business would want to partner with procurement, whether they are bringing value or not. But the miss is the connection between procurement and the vendors, because some of the organizations, they work in silos. They interact with the vendors and they bring procurement towards the end. So the evolution of having supplier to be more tied to their outcome based deliverables, and also suppliers should be focused on the business goals and the business impact, not just fulfilling requisitions or not just meeting with the outcomes. I understand there are scorecards and all, but scorecard shouldn't be just an award category. Scorecard should be a continuous improvement, where you're setting expectations with the vendors. And if your vendors are not meeting with the expectations, you need to really let them know where and why they are not meeting with the expectations. Just having a conversation out of the blue and saying, like, hey, we rationalized and you're not a part of the program, that's not my style. So, sorry, I think you wanted to say something, Mickey.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say like I love the idea of evolution on all sides and the suppliers being accountable to the outcomes and the business goals, but on the business side, them being transparent about what the goals are and what we really want, and that whole point of knowing how they're measured, but it being more than just metrics and measuring, and really just a push towards continuous improvement. I love the idea around that because it's win-win on both sides. You give us what we want, you give us what we want. It's that transparency, I think, goes a long way. So I just wanted to highlight, I really think that's a key piece of how to make a supplier a strategic partner?
Right. One of the strategy that I worked on is a preferred supplier program where not only working with the top performing suppliers or where the spend is coming from, but also giving opportunity to the emerging suppliers and the niche suppliers, especially we are living in an AI era where not all the time the 5 or the 6 suppliers that we have been working with for decades would be the right option. So I would definitely think from that lens too. And when I'm having conversations with the suppliers on their performance, that doesn't mean that I call all the 200 or the 300 suppliers that we have. Having, if somebody is being rationalized, having a thorough communication, a channel where they know what's going on, would go a long way, because suppliers, it's not a transaction. I believe it's an ecosystem which is based on relationships, not just on fulfilling requisitions or meeting with the business outcomes. So they should be able to scale. They can only scale when we have that relationship built, when we have that governance, and we have that transparency at a level where they should be knowing to some extent, given that they're adding value and they're delivering the outcomes for the organization.
I like what you've said there in how you've built your strategic supplier programs in the various roles that you've had. And one, obviously, have similar experience to you, where I've worked in different facets of the industry. And the thing that I can tell you that resonates, especially now being on a supplier provider side of the business, is it's partnerships and it's relationships. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what makes everybody successful. And at the end of the day, you've already invested in time and effort to bring certain suppliers into the program in the first place. And not every supplier is going to be successful. We all know that. But it's about how you treat them in that process of trying to coach and educate them and give them opportunities to be successful prior to just saying, hey, unfortunately, it hasn't worked out, and you guys just aren't making an impact in the program, and therefore we're going to maybe go in a different direction. So the fact that you've called that out, like I said, it really does resonate with me for various reasons, and I love that approach. So I would encourage you, keep on doing that. And what you'll
Thank
get at is a group of suppliers in the programs that support you that are extremely engaged and appreciative, even if they end up not being successful in the end. They'll still appreciate the opportunities and the education and the time that you spent with them to help them along the way, and see if they couldn't improve. So again, I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. And if I could be a little bit selfish, I would say there is so much to learn from suppliers from an industry insight standpoint. Because when I'm working with an organization, my world revolves within the organization, within those projects, maybe it an AI tool or a projects that we are working on. And it's, though we attend networking events, it's very hard to stay on top given that things change so quickly these days. So having a conversation with the vendors, not just on the projects, but giving them an opportunity, hey, what's going on outside in the market? What are the new tools that you're working on? Or tell me something new so that I can learn from them. And that actually helped me a lot. I talk a lot with Manish, I talk a lot with other vendors too, and I get to know what's going on in the market. So it actually keeps me updated as well. So thank you.
Absolutely. Like I said, it's reciprocal. So what you
Yeah.
put in, you also get back out.
Hmm.
That's yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
So just to move things along, you've seen this industry from a lot of different angles as we've been talking about. And in the spirit of uplifting and improving our space, if there's one mindset that you could change that people have about contingent workforce, what would it be?
I would like to speak from an as a procurement as a whole, not just on contingent as one of the categories. I wouldn't call it as I would want to change the mindset, but I would want to expand the mindset of the people. Like, for example, or the organizations, not really the people, like the organizations and the systems, because we briefly touch based, Mickey, earlier on the cost savings, like procurement shouldn't be just thinking cost savings as the end goal. It should be the starting point driving towards the business impact. So, procurement should be involved in demand generation. Procurement should be involved in early conversations, having a procurement council, having those decisions, and the contracts that we execute with the vendors should be, I would say, tight enough so that we are not just executing a contract, but we are also pivoting the milestones, the deliverables, the outcome based so that you're accountable to it. And having transparency at all levels and working together as one ecosystem is the mindset that I would want to expand, because when we work on projects, sometimes we like you mentioned, Mickey rightly pointed, we are the last ones to know that. And by the time we got to know, most of the work is done. And then we connect with the vendor, we connect with the business, with cross functional, with IT for the implementations. Especially when we are going through sourcing transformations, it's important to build the leaders at an early, bring them at an early stage, and have those conversations. So I would want to expand the mindset to think beyond cost savings and have a total cost of ownership, and have vendors or the suppliers transparency as to what's going on.
Another really good point raised, and I've never worked on the enterprise buyer side of the business, but having seen it from the MSP lens and having seen it from the supplier side lens, I can appreciate what you're saying is that oftentimes it is procurement can be viewed as a secondary partner or an afterthought a little bit that, oh, I just need to bring this through them to follow the proper procedures or to make sure the contracting is set up properly, not, oh, this team can help me source, they can help me find the right vendors, they can bring more value to the total transaction. So, like I said, I think what you're sharing makes a lot of sense to me from the lenses I've seen it from, and I can certainly appreciate how you'd want people to think a little bit more strategically in how they view their
Mhm.
procurement partners.
Yeah, I would love to invite you to the enterprise side, but I don't think Manish will be happy if I poach you. So sorry.
Probably not.
Sorry, Matt.
Uh,
That's okay.
that's funny. But I love because you bring up just a lot of good points there, and there's the idea of not a change, but just an expansion. I think that kind of hit me. It's like, hey, it's not like you need to change, but let's think a little bit more
Mhm.
broadly, more dynamically. I think that's just a very simple nod to yes, a thing that can be done a little bit differently. So I appreciate that, and there's definitely some themes here that I'm hearing across a lot of your answers that I'm appreciating. The transparency in this one and the thinking beyond cost is definitely two that were very true. And I appreciate you twisting it a little bit instead of this being contingent workforce focused, bringing in that procurement lens, which is very much a part of the contingent workforce space. As we know, CW area goes across and bridges a lot of areas. It's great to have your focus on that procurement side. So thanks for bringing that perspective.
Great. So, if we are done with all the questions, want to ask you guys one question, because normally when I meet with anyone or when I do something new for the first time, I really want to learn something from you guys. So, I would want to ask, and now everyone is talking about AI. So, I'll just go along with the flow and I'll
It,
ask you an AI question. I won't ask you to build something, but what is a tool, or tell me a new tool that you have been playing with recently or you explored? You're like me, you got really curious, and why? And this is not the GPTs or the Claude's world. It's some new tool. If you're comfortable sharing, I would love to learn something new.
Yeah, I was
yeah, Matt, if you want to go first.
sure. I was
So, but the caveat
anticipating
is
that.
you cannot repeat whatever Matt has learned. You have to come up with your own.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's fair.
Okay.
Fair enough. Yeah, so it's a great question. AI is the topic that is permeating every conversation these days. Everything you read, everything people are talking about. And I've certainly explored them. Now, you asked about beyond the Chat GPTs and the Geminis and such. I'll tell you, I am not like a super early adopter, but I use the basics. You know, I use Chat GPT, I use Copilot, I use Gemini. So my answer is probably not that exciting because I haven't really gone deep into the AI space. I would just say more so I enjoy plugging into the basic chatbots and seeing how it can help me optimize things that, might have taken me 45 minutes or an hour of time in the past to think through a strategy or how do I want to write this up or whatever. And you can just prompt it and it gives you really good ideas for the most part, right? You have to validate everything that comes out of the chat bots, but they do help, and they
Yeah.
can give you, like I said, something that might have taken you an hour's worth of work and cut that down to 10 minutes worth of work. So I've really enjoyed that and optimizing. But yeah, beyond that, I'm not too into the weeds with, the different tools that are out there when it comes to, creative tools or when it comes to, I know like in our space, our teams are using a lot of tools specific to recruitment that really help, but I'm just not at that level where I've played with too many of them.
But I'm sure you must have mastered the prompts because you're working on different tools. So maybe we should catch up offline. I always get stuck on the prompts. I'm not that great at it. So maybe I can catch up with you
And
on
it's
that.
interesting, but between the prompts and just Matt, you're saying like, oh, nothing like crazy or new tools, like that's okay. Like the thing is to get good at it and use it to your advantage. You don't have to go use every new tool that's out there because let's be honest, there are 50,000 new tools it seems every week coming out, and it's overwhelming to see which does which and what does what. So I don't know that there's like it's like bad that you're just using they're not basics, like
No.
it's an
Yeah.
AI tool. If you look at the vast majority of our population, very few people are using it, and in adoption in the business world is still very minor. So it's kind of funny because I'm like, oh yeah, like I've been dabbling with a lot of different tools. But like one that I would say, there's a tool called Duet, Duet. I don't remember the site off the top of my head, but that one's been really cool. It's made it really simple to build agents
Oh,
that can go in and do things. And in some of my own business development, it's made things easier. But I'm very cautious about automation and agents simply because if it's taking away from authenticity, if it's doing things that don't feel like me, or that it's representing me in a way that isn't my voice, like I don't use it, or if it's not automating something that I feel can truly be automated, there's really not any value in it. So beyond what tool is out there, you have to think about, is this tool actually representing me well? Is it benefiting me in a way that makes sense and actually makes my life easier? And to your point, Matt, even if it's not the newest, craziest tool, if it's making life easier and it's working well, that's really all that matters.
perfect. Yeah. Agreed.
No, and I appreciate you flipping the script on us because you gave us a lot of insight here. And I talked about some themes earlier on, sort of teasing at that because as I'm taking notes, it's like obviously a big procurement background, and your focus was on that, which is great because we need to get into that and dive into the various areas. But procurement's involvement in the life cycle and the ecosystem is such a big deal. And being at the table early on in the conversations, whether that's implementation or just simple requirements gathering. And then your pieces around supplier accountability, but also the accountability of the buyers, of the business as well, to meet each other in the middle and push each other to do better. And I love your piece that you added towards the end around learning from the suppliers. They're not just this commodity, this transactional thing. They're actually in the weeds every day and can pull some very good nuanced market insights, details on what's going on. And bring that to leaders because you may not see that every day while you're running your business. And the idea of an expansion of mindset of we don't necessarily need to change what we're doing or how we think about things, but let's expand that mindset. I think that's super valuable. And if I could recommend to the listeners to take anything away, those are some of the key themes that definitely stood out to me that I want to acknowledge here. But Sunita, you brought so much good insight to us. I want to thank you for being on the show today. This has been a blast.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mickey, Matt, and Team TechWisen. Thank you, Manish. Glad to be here.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much, Sunita. Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you again on Whisper.